Alright, so I'm going to make a video about this shader technique that we're trying to use. So we're using this guy's insight here. So he has a game. It's like this tactics game. Ironically, the battle mode is similar to ours. And so you have like a tactical map, turn-based gameplay, but then, it's more anime style. And so in short, we have this ability to control shadows here. This is something I didn't appreciate until working with shaders in Unity, and being able to control the shadows was kind of a really important factor for getting the style right. And I hadn't gotten to that yet in Unreal. And so we just recently started to look at that and found that we actually couldn't replicate the look that we had in Unity, which was a little surprising. So glad I ran into this. Currently working through it. There's a lot to read here, and so I'll link this, but the main thing I'm going to go over is installing it and then fixing it in Unreal, because the instructions are mostly correct. If they're a little dated, there's like a couple small changes, and so I'm also going to message him and let him know. Let's see, where is it? So there's a link in here, and the example project is really helpful. The example project will not work without the, where's that installation at? Here it is. Okay. So right here. Now, it gives great instructions on how to get in here, and that's important. So you do need to actually follow this and get invited to this Unreal project, and then you'll be able to get in. So when you get in there, pull this in. Here's the difference, but when you get in there, it's going to look like this, which is a whole lot of code. You can just clone or download this repository. Ultimately, though, we only need one folder. So per his instructions, at least for what's called the launcher version, we only need this shaders private. So he's got other branches as well that can be used, but sometimes there's different instructions for each one. So you really just kind of have to follow what he says in the threads and make sure you're not going to get yourself in trouble. Because like this light blend experiment, his latest work, you have to actually build source to get that to work. So this one doesn't require that. There's, what is it? There's 5.3 cell shade launcher, but then there's this one, which is also a launcher version, but it's not exactly specified. But as long as you're following whatever instructions he leaves behind, and there's a Discord server as well. So I looked at that as well to gain insight. So it's kind of a nuisance to download an entire repository of this size. So there's this tool here, download directory GitHub IO, and so you can put in the URL to this folder, and it'll yank it down. Problem with this is it requires a token, and so you have to create an actually pretty, what is it called? It's not a restrictive token, so you have to give access to like your full private repositories if you're using a classic GitHub token. So I did that, and then I revoked it as soon as I ran this. So I downloaded the folder. All right, so that's all the like pre-setup stuff. Once you get that folder, you're going to have this, which is all the private folder contents here. So we're going to take all this stuff in here. We're going to copy it, and then depending on the version of Unreal we're working with. So in our case, we're using 5.4.1, but it just says 5.4. And then engine, and we're just going to go to the path, which if I can remember. Engine, shaders, private. And then I just like drag all of this in here, making sure not to drop it in a folder, but onto the actual folder. I already did it, so I'm not going to do it again, but that's how you get the differences installed there. The issue with doing it this way is obviously we can't have it in our version control. I've thought of actually putting this entire folder in our version control as well. It's kind of a lot. So for the time being, I'm not going to mess with that. But in the future, I think we're going to need to do something to that effect where we have a script that just copies a folder from version control to your local version of Unity. No, gosh, not Unity, Unreal. So I think that's definitely going to be on the cards in the future, because I like the way this looks. I like what it does. which it gets rid of things like lumen and some of the light volumetric controls. All right, so there's some more issues though. So I'm just going to try and hammer all these out. When you open up Unreal, this post-processing thing here was on for me, so I see this, and it's not always readily clear that that's an issue, because like this scene is fine, and then other scenes appear fine. Let's see if we go to this one. Yeah, so other scenes appear fine, but then, and maybe once we fix those scenes, then they'll have the same issue. But so post-processing, you'll want to make sure that eye adaptation is off, and then motion blur, which it seems to turn itself off. But yeah, and if you have those on, it creates bad behavior. For some, I don't understand why, but it does. So, all right. The next thing to know is I just flat pulled in the BP Sky Sphere from its example. So the post-processing is going to affect this, I guess in an okay way. Like it's not getting everything. I feel like some of our cinematic camera angles will catch some of the sky in it, like from the side, and we have some, I think we have some angles that are like down here for the swan. So the skybox is still going to be something we have to figure out, but for the time being, I just copied over the one that he had to recreate the scene, basically, and just try and get the colors the way that he had it, which I feel like we've got at this point. To get it to where he had, I also pulled in this blueprint, so it's BP Cell Shader Light. This wasn't configured correctly. I had to scroll through the one in the example and the one here and make some changes. So some of those changes are, let's find them real quick. Hopefully, though, in our project, I'll just save this, so you shouldn't have to mess with it anymore. But I'm a little concerned that I'm going to try and drag this into another scene, and I'm a little concerned that it's not going to save some of these settings. So like bloom was fine, but or was I think it was exposure. Yeah. So in the instructions it says to set this to 1, and then there was this adjustment, which maybe this doesn't matter anymore because it doesn't seem like it made a difference anymore. But the reason I bring that up, I spent about an hour and a half trying to fight with this. Okay, let me find it. It's exposure. It basically looked through all of these settings in here. I feel like white is going to be... There's a setting that's grayed out. I got to look for it. All right, I haven't found the exact setting yet, but here's the project settings. And so messing with this, his was at TSR. When we do that, it makes it jitter. You can see how this is just flickering a lot. So it could be something with our post processor that needs some adjusting. So leaving it on the FXAA slows it down a lot. It still has some jitter on the shadows, but it doesn't make you want to throw up. Okay, so there's one more setting. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'll be right back. Okay, here it was. I had to go to my search history to find this. It's actually not behaving the same way, which is confusing, but this was grayed out. It said that you could no longer modify this setting, and you had to do it from the INI file. And so I actually exported the INI file from the example project and imported it here and got the settings to apply, but it wouldn't let me turn this off. And so turning off this default lumen setting got it to work, because otherwise it was really dark. There was one poster who had mentioned that. Yeah, this guy meets solid. And so here's the example scene, and then here when he pulled in all the stuff to the scene, ours was doing exactly this, and for us it was something to do with the settings in here, the project INI, and so I just tried to match all of it to make it identical, and there was just some things that wouldn't let me change. I'm guessing because it's a slight difference between the Unreal version. It wasn't insurmountable, it was just kind of hard to find, and so yeah, I think that was it. Let's see, auto exposure histogram, and all of this stuff is like being reset in the, what is that thing called? The post-process volume. So like some of these things you can like mess with, but I want to say that it was just that one checkbox that I couldn't uncheck, which now it seems like you can. But see how some of these things are grayed out. But that's a bad example. Anyways, so that's the ini file should be in our version control. So whenever I push this up, it should be fine. So we won't have to worry about it. But I did want to mention it, and then I had to change this to 0. Again, now it seems fine, but earlier it was not. So just sitting there messing with all this stuff and trying to match the exact settings of the other project. So now I want to try and pull this into another scene. Some of these things are so this is his point light correction, and it doesn't seem to have an effect. It might have an effect later with certain situations. It did have an effect prior to the adjustment, that lumen, default lumen adjustment, but luminance range. So for outlines, again, taking the advice of Envious there, we have a regular outline shader, and then we have this hatching algorithm, which arguably needs work because it's brightening everything, and so we can fix that at some point. So yeah, I want to look at that. I did look at it last session, and I couldn't figure out exactly what was going on with it. Like I couldn't figure out why it's brightening it so much. But I'll go look at that later. So the main thing is just making sure we get the shader model in and working, and then we can kind of fine tune our outline to probably clearing up some of the shadows. Actually, no, I don't know what's wrong with the shadows. Outline seems okay. We're doing two things though. So now we're doing the post-process outline, and then we have the kind of classic double. Give me some movement. And then we're doing the double outline here. So let me do something like rotate. All right, so this is an inverted mesh here. So we can kind of take a peek at this guy. I think it's on the other screen. Let's pull it over. Okay, so yeah, this is MI inverted. Let's open up the parent. Sometimes I just cannot navigate this program. Right? All right, where's the parent? So we're here somewhere. There you are. I'm getting used to it though. All right. No. All right, so here we go. It's really simple. I read this online somewhere, and this is basically the same thing we do in Unity. In Unity, though, I knew how to do it in a single shader. So I'm kind of baffled on how to do it with one mesh. Like in Unity, somehow I had it happening with one mesh, and I'm like besides myself to try and figure that out again. But right now I just don't want to dig into that. So in Unreal, like using these little shader graph things. So yeah, we're just inverting the mesh and then inverting the normals, and you have the outline color. So we don't use exact black. We use with our whole color palette, which has like 400 colors or some such. This is the blackest we get. So and that'll hopefully make it look consistent. Yeah, so there's that. So we have this outline effect, but when we also combine it, so it already has an outline effect here, and this is good for certain contours, and then you can have the regular post-process outline, which lays on top of that as well. So it kind of catches a little bit more. Still working on the overall style and stuff, but we've lost multiple light support, which is fine. Like we don't really need it for this game. We have like one major light source, which is the sun or the time of day. And so we can sit here and mess with this guy and get, I feel like this is fine. We don't really need we don't need more than this. So I'm happy with that. And it gets us, it's much easier to work with these colors. Like these are a heck of a lot closer to the colors that are on our like color PDF template thing. So this is really, really close, if not exact. And I'd pull it up, but it's on my tablet. Like I look at the color template, color swatch thing on my tablet, and then I put it into the game. One other thing we'll be doing, I know I'm kind of like just running around with saying all these things, but It's kind of a lot that happened. I'm trying to cut it short. So if we go to developer material library, let's go to the comic theme. Let's go here. So I made a test material instance to mess with here. Let's go to master comic, which has all our stuff for player customization. All right, now, and all the features and stuff we're supporting. So we integrated with his technique here, this MF cell shader. Similarly, using a different color black, although I started experimenting with an even alternate shade of black, which I like this more for some reason. It doesn't look like black on the screen to me. Might just be my monitor, but it looks good in the game, so the outline does. All right, so here's this, which just, all it is just, it's not calculating the colors, but we can do things beforehand to choose a different outline color, for example, or choose a different shadow color, choose a different light color. So by default, we're just going to want white all the time because we want to control the color elsewhere. But you know, that can happen in our master shader. But what I wanted to show was the color swatches. Let's find a color real quick here. Okay, so if we just click on this guy to edit it, they have this color picker deal. It's a little wacky, but we can get in here and edit this and create a template and stuff. Yeah, so we can like add labels in here. And so I'm gonna do this, but their editor experience for adding this, and we have like 400 of these, it kind of sucks. Like I don't want to sit here and fight with this little interface. So what I'm gonna do is use the ini file directly, and that's yet another area that isn't shared by the project, so we have to install it manually unless we want to override each other's kind of personal defaults. So let me pull up that file. All right, if memory serves, it's going to be in the config. So if you have your project directory, config, and then it's default editor ini, that's what it should be. Let's crack this open with, yeah, Notepad should be fine. Nope. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's even more obscure. So from here, it's saved. Config, and window editor, and then there's editor per project user settings ini, this guy. This is the file. So we need to make changes to this. And the reason we want to do this is because, again, it's kind of a pain to alter all the colors inside of this editor here. That's not really, it's a terrible experience. So we're going to scroll all the way down here, and here's color themes. So we can see this, and here's all the values. So what I can do is I can programmatically write a file and just copy and paste this color themes value in here. And then we can basically just import this or copy and paste this block, which is unfortunate, but would make it a lot easier for us to stay on track with our colors. Then we would have a nice little menu in here. It's just that, yeah, we have to do this manual step. So once I get that going, I'll make another video for how we copy the color profiles over. But just kind of a heads up for keeping the look dev consistent, that'll help, because right now we have this method of using dithered textures that are screen, like locked to the screen space, like the dithering is. But we don't always want that. Like sometimes we want solid colors, but there's not a way to easily get the calculated colors, because right now what we're looking at are screen blending colors. And so we're actually using those primary colors and then mixing them together to get those colors out. But if we wanted to say just use a solid version of this blue or a solid version of this like yellow, well, we can't do that right now. Like there's no, unless you manually calculate the color and then find it in the color wheel, that's just not going to happen. Like it's going to take a lot of finagling. Let's see. I decided 5.5 was better looking. No, I hate it. I hate it all. Man, it's going to take forever to find the right ones. I don't know why I have 7.5 in here. So anyways, you can kind of mess with this and So you alter the dithering. But if you wanted to get rid of it completely, that's just not supported right now. All we have is clean dots. Even though there's other things in here, we don't actually have them implemented yet. And I want to implement, what is it called? I would like to implement solid. And so we could use this menu for that, but it may be tedious to actually code in. So I might not do that. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. At any rate, we need to get the color template added into the engine so that we can at least work with it. And because right now it's such a manual effort to get anything colored. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with this. And I'm going to try and move this to another scene, which let's just try that right now. I hope that this is correct already. And even though I made changes to it in here, inside of this scene, I'm hoping that like the values that have been adjusted work. So let's go ahead and save this. Checkout complete. Let's go to a different map. Like let's go to one of the ones with cards. The test weapon scene maybe. Yeah. Yeah, just check it out. Let's go. Pause. Never mind. Okay. So here we are. I'm preparing shaders. All right, cool. Yeah, so I definitely like the way this is handling better, like the colors. But yeah, it'll take some work to kind of clear everything up. So this is using a different post-processor and stuff, and I think it has more lighting. So it's using all the default Unreal lighting. So let's pull in the fall dog. Okay, BP. So let's just yank this guy in. Yeah, it's going to grab about multiple lights because we have all of these lights here. So just delete that. Skylight. Guess sky atmosphere. Post-process volume. So there's also a second post-process volume. So I'm going to purge our old one. Okay, that's a neat little effect. Let's see, post-processing here. I have dictation. Don't want you. It keeps turning on. I hope that that's not going to be an issue later. Okay. So what else do we need to do here? So I have a feeling that it's not set up right. Like it didn't save the settings. So I'm kind of run through here and see what I know. Post-process. Bloom is right. Exposure. Yeah, it didn't save. Oh gosh, that's painful. Yeah, that's really painful. I don't know how to like get it to save. It's like I have to somehow go into the blueprint and fix it. So here, like, let me switch scenes. Let's go back to the other scene. In Unity, there's a button where you can just say apply to the base. They call them prefabs. I need to get to the maps. Okay, so let's go to this captain's room here. I don't want to save this because it didn't work. See, look, it's doing it again. This fucking way to just default turn this off. That's pretty annoying. It didn't do this yesterday, like when I was working on it, so I'm confused for sure as to why. So I'm hoping what I can do is just copy this post-process here. I'm going to go into the blueprint. Okay, that wasn't really editing it in blueprint, but fortunately I know where it's at. Oh, this is it. It's opened. Okay. All right, so I'm hoping I can just delete this and paste it. So hopefully that'll have all the settings. And then I can crack it open in another scene, and that should work. Secondly, I want to just copy this skybox thing here. Just consistently have the same one for now, as I might need that in the other scene just to test the colors. Map. So let's go back to this weapons map. Okay. And so we have this funkiness going on. Let me blast the lighting. when you delete a folder in Unreal, it deletes the folder and nothing else. Watch. And all this stuff is still here. It's like sky atmosphere, skylight. Get rid of the sky spirit too. Why not? Post-process volume. Go ahead and purge that. Now let's try and drag this guy back in. See if it behaves a little bit better. Check out this setting here. Interesting. Did not do what I expected. Suppose what I get for doing this live and seeing if it works. I just try to... Oh, okay. Maybe it's just the angle. Maybe. I don't think that they're using a significantly different shader from the goose or the swan in the other scene. That arrow is really helpful. Okay. Alright, so actually this might be okay. I don't actually think there's a problem. But the scene is really dark. The background really does a lot, like that skybox. So let's try pasting that in. Still had that on the clipboard. Yeah, it really does a lot for the scene. So you can kind of see the pure colors there and then what the scene background does to the eyes. Alright, so this is really dark. Probably want the light to go the other way from the perspective of the camera, maybe. And if it seems like I don't know what I'm doing, it's because I don't. There's a lot of learning here. Color is just not a strong dimension for me. Come on. I can't change the, trying to use the hotkeys to change this. It's freaking out on me. Shouldn't matter where it's at, but I'm trying to get in a position that's easy to mess with. So I guess, yeah, just straight down. What is that? Is that what's going to make sense on this scene? 90 degrees. Of course, it's almost straight down. Okay. Yeah, so, okay. So we have this. It has that point light correction on the post processor, but if the copy worked, then everything else should be there. But it didn't. Why is it not there? There was other settings that I had modified, and it was a lot of little things, and I'm a little bothered that I'm bothered that I can't get those values. Like, I don't know why it's not, like, the easiest one to tell is that this post-process and this min-max brightness, so it says 1, which earlier it said, like, MEV, you're like, yeah, EV 100. So it's a little confusing. But I set these to 0. Let me go back to the other scene. I'll go ahead and save this one. Hopefully I can revert if it's screwed up too badly. Let's go back to here. Just going to turn off eye adaptation somehow. Yeah. I don't know how to turn it off. So if we come in here, see how this is 0. I just need to copy all these settings. There is a way you can do this. Copy all properties and category. So I could try this. I'm not even seeing those values. Here it is, post-process volume. Oh, it's not letting me paste. Copy all properties in category. Yeah, it's a shame because then we have to like walk down the line and just adjust or copy each one of these subcategories. So if I went in here and I did it from it doesn't support it on this top level. But if I went down to like rendering features, for example, copy all properties and group, and we go to rendering features here, you can see that it's not going to be correct. So there's only one, right? So if we go here and paste, oh, that doesn't work either. So at some level it doesn't work, but you can, if you go down far enough, post-processed materials, copy, there it is. So then that worked, and it copies exactly what's there. But man, I regret not editing it from the blueprint. I'll look up a way to see if I can just say, like, save this as the blueprint, because that's really what I want and need. There's too many setting changes. So yeah, some of the troubles I'm having, which is just with Unreal itself, and then on the other hand, it's the colors or the configuration. So it's a lot of little things to tinker with, but just wanted to kind of show the pain and all the little tweaks and stuff that we had to do to kind of get it to look this way. And then we'll just kind of continue working with this, and I'll either painstakingly manually replicate all the settings over again, or maybe there's a way I can choose to save it as. But for whatever reason, just copying this post-process entire object, copy. Let me see, I want to come here and, did I already save this? I think so. Let's find one that's wrong again, like the min-max brightness here. But just copying this over doesn't seem to work, so copy, bloom, min-max brightness 0, right? So let's see, hopefully this just works. Delete, paste. Like, why would that not work? I don't. Yeah, like what the heck is that? Why is that? What is it copying if not this entity and all of its configuration? So I don't know. It seems like a bug to me, but so I'll go and just make sure all those settings match. There was one in particular with the color that did alter things quite a bit, and I have to just look through all of these because I can't remember what it was. Tint, something like that. It was some kind of color multiplier. There's so many settings. So anywho, that's where we're at.